If communities are not going to benefit from conservation, conservation is not going to survive. Now, hunting per se is one way of providing a sustainability tool. Hunting is not going to solve the problem of elephants. We simply have too many in these areas. But hunting, at least on the short to medium term, will be able to provide some sustainability for the communities, to give wildlife managers, the ecologists, finding ways to reduce the number of elephants in Botswana. Now, there are a number of options. And none of them are foolproof, obviously, and none of them can, on its own, provide the solution. One of the hailed solutions, obviously, is the TFCA, the CASA TFCA, with the corridors, elephant corridors. The question that I have is, why is it that the elephant population in Botswana has been stable for the last 8 years? 3 aerial counts, it has shown that the elephant numbers hang around 125,000 to 132,000. So that means that the corridors are not being used. And the question then is, are the corridors in the wrong place? Are they blocked for some other reason? But it does look like that it's not functioning. So we're going to have to relook at the situation of these corridors and how we're going to define these corridors to allow the movement of elephants out to areas. What we currently see is actually that the elephants are moving south, deeper into Botswana and closer to more densely populated areas, which is going to create its own problems. There are other options. Of course, we have been looking at relocation. Relocation is very, very limited. It's an expensive process. You have to relocate whole family groups to be able to maintain the social structure. And despite the invitation to international countries to come and assist with the relocation of elephants, nothing has happened so far. And we will hardly be able to relocate more than 1,000 elephants, which is not going to solve the problem in Botswana. There are other options, for example, contraceptives, immunocontraceptives in elephants. That is something that we're currently looking at, but we must realize that it is a long-term process and it is really going to be limited. You can only do parts. It's a very expensive process. It's a very extensive process. Culling is obviously one of the things that has been mentioned, and culling is one of the things that they will look at. But the problem that we have with culling, obviously, apart from the reputational damage that you can get, is also the issue of eruptive growth. The moment as you reduce the numbers, you have the potential that the elephant population is going to adapt and increase correspondingly. And therefore, where the current population growth is around about 3, maybe 5%, it can go up as high as 25%. So there are all these ecological issues that we need to look at. But I think the one thing that the world needs to realize is, first, Botswana is not one big game reserve. There is more than enough area set aside for wildlife. Botswana, for example, has got 17% of its surface set aside for national parks, and that is far more than the stipulated 10%. So I think Botswana has really, done its responsibility towards conservation and towards wildlife management. So that's the first issue. I think the second issue that we need to bear in mind is that the future in Africa, in terms of conservation, is going to rely on the fact that we will have to consider communities as part of the system, and we're going to have to consider what the communities want. If communities are not going to benefit from conservation, conservation is not going to survive.